Hi, I'm Marina Gentle, and I will be presenting to you why and how to involve different stakeholders in relation to NBS. So first, a word about LISODE. So we are a company that is specialized in the design, implementation, and evaluation of public policies, urban planning, and research and development projects with a participative approach. So we help local governments and researchers set up processes by which end users can be heard, contribute, and have an impact on projects and regulations that will change their everyday lives, especially in relation to natural resources. So what is public participation, which is at the core of what we do? I'll present to you a definition which is inspired by Einstein, a researcher who published a paper on the topic in 1969. So the first level of public participation is information. So basically providing stakeholders with information on a project, such as technical drawings, facts, data. The second level is consultation. This is typically done through questionnaires and interviews. And the idea is to ask stakeholders for their opinion or their perception on a subject. The third level is co-construction. That is usually done through collective workshops. And here the aim is to actively involve stakeholders in developing proposals for projects. And the highest level, which is quite rare, to be honest, is co-decision, where citizens have the same weight as those who are legally responsible when taking decisions. An important aspect of what we do is to make the difference between participation and communication. So communication is about sending messages, while information is about making sure that you give people the right data and facts about what has been done or what is being done or will be done in the territory. If you're sending a newsletter, or if you are posting on Twitter a message saying NBS are great, you are communicating, but you're not actually giving any information for people to understand or act upon what is going to happen in their city. So on the slide, I just put an example of information. If you say a rain garden of a certain dimension will be implemented for a certain purpose in a given area by a given company, and you give the cost for that operation, you say who will be funding it, and you give the calendar about the construction work. In that case, you're giving information, and that is the first way to empower people. So why to involve all kinds of people when implementing NBS? First reason for that can be to improve social acceptability. Another reason can be to improve the relevance of your NBS by getting to know about people's problems in relation to water, or people's perception about the neighborhood where you're thinking of implementing your NBS. Another reason can be to improve visibility from a technical, administrative, or budget perspective. And lastly, it can be to improve fairness. So you can be looking forward to mitigate the negative aspects that could derive at certain moments or for certain categories of people in the implementation of your NBS. I insist that communication cannot be the only objective or the only reason for involving different stakeholders. Public participation is really about increased positive impact. So who to involve ideally? If you're looking at the first level, information, well, pretty much anyone whose lives or jobs will be impacted by the implementation of your NBS will certainly want to know about it. If we're looking at level 2, consultation, all the people who are involved in the design, the funding, the management, the maintenance of the NBS to be installed, or of NBS which have been installed in the city in the past should be involved. Obviously, also the people who are living and working nearby. Make sure that you think of the people who will be impacted also on the short, medium, and long term. And if you're looking at the third level, co-construction, it is very context dependent, so that depends on the objectives of your workshop. So I'll give you a few very general but important principles. You have to be very clear with yourself and others what your intentions are. So don't do participation for the sake of participation just because it's trendy. You have to be clear with the stakeholders you are inviting. What will be the impact of the contribution on the actual NBS? And finally, you have to be very clear with the stakeholders about the position of the facilitator. So in a workshop, if the person who is facilitating is part of an organization which is selling or managing the NBS, you have to be explicit about that. It's best if you have someone from the outside that can facilitate the workshop so that that person can be really neutral. If not, it's not a problem, but in that case, the facilitator has to be only in the role of facilitator and cannot be a participant at the same time. So if the person belongs to an organization that you feel is also important to include as a participant, you would need to have someone else coming to the workshop who would do that role in addition. A few tips and tools. I would say don't lecture people about climate change. It's good to give the big picture, but often they know about it. My second advice would be humble and realistic. So you want to avoid the technophile, over-enthusiastic approach and mindset about NBS. If you have people who are a bit skeptical about it in the first place, being too positive about it can actually be counterproductive. It's also important in the same line to let people share their negative feelings. If they have negative experiences about NBS, don't try and shut them down. You have to give them opportunity to express them. And generally speaking, consider NBS as one tool to address a problem, which is complementary to other tools and other public policies, and not something which is going to solve all the problems on its own. And my last advice would be use big cardboards and markers when facilitating workshops so that people can actually see what is being written by others. Generally speaking, visual facilitation, technical drawings, maps is really, really helpful. So here I just put an example of people working on a map and of the material that we use. As you can see, they are not small post-it, they're quite wide. If you want to discuss this more in details, I invite you to write to me at my email, which is showing on the PowerPoints. You can also check our website. LISODE, we have written a guide, which is free, open access, and it's full of practical tips on how to plan a participatory process and facilitate a workshop. I put the link right here in English, so you can download it, but obviously it's also available in French. Thank you for your attention.